Hey guys, today's story is about pining for the fjords. I started getting into D&D about a year ago. I didn't know anyone in real life who played, so I went with the next best option. I joined Roll20. I applied for a couple of games and got accepted to one in particular. The GM wanted it to be a high-level campaign. The plan was to go past level 20, so we started at level 10, and every time we leveled up, we'd go up by 5 levels. So as a relatively new player, it was pretty rough, but before the campaign got underway, I didn't really understand that's what was going on to happen. Even before session 1, we lost a player to a change in work, and the GM asked if we knew anyone that would be interested in playing. I had an in-real-life friend who I knew wanted to try out D&D, and she agreed to join. This was still 2 weeks out from session 1, and so began the red flags. It started out as a joke, so I didn't think much of it at the time, but the GM brought out a pregnancy chart to roll on every time our characters decided to hook up with a random person at a tavern down the road. 15 minutes later in that conversation, the GM also pulled out a chart to roll for bra and genital size. And somewhere in the joke, it suddenly became canon. And for this very reason, my in-real-life friend decided she wanted to make a child sorcerer. She did not want to have to roll on this table. I also decided to make my character gay, so I wouldn't have to worry about pregnancy. At this point, I'm sure you can all see where this story is heading. You'd be right, but this wasn't really the horror part of the story. That's for another time. The red flags continued. Session 1, my character got roofied by a goddess. Session 2, the GM pulled out a deck of many things. Session 4, the child sorcerer got kidnapped despite succeeding on all 3 rolls the GM asked her to make. Session 6, a dragon confessed his infatuation towards my character, only for my character to say that she isn't into guys. The GM then describes how the dragon changes to be the shape of a woman and explains it away as
a god, I can take whichever form I wish.
Session 7. Large time skip, forcing my in-real-life friend to roll on the chart for bra size, and our paladin to now have a small child from having to roll on the pregnancy table. It was also around this time that something happened outside of game. A couple of the players were chatting on a voice call on a day we weren't scheduled to play. I get a text from my in-real-life friend asking me to join in the chat with her because she felt uncomfortable without me. When I join, maybe a minute into the call, the GM asked me if my real-life friend had told me what they'd just been talking about. She had, but I feigned ignorance. With multiple people in the call, he went on to tell me how he'd essentially just told my friend that he really liked her. She told him she didn't share that same sentiment, and he seemed to be okay with it. Session 8. The GM introduces a childhood friend from in-real-life friend's backstory. The party sets out to rescue him, and we bring him back to our castle. It's very obvious that the childhood friend has feelings towards the character. Another time skip ensues. Session 9. Between the last session and the current one, the in-real-life friend talked to the GM and basically told him that her character didn't want anything romantically to do with the NPC. During the session, in-real-life friend's character is rescued by a rogue wearing all black. Session 10, we find out that the said rogue is the NPC who had been watching over in-real-life friend's character for the last 10 years to make sure that she didn't get hurt. Meanwhile, the GM keeps making comments suggesting that the in-real-life friend shouldn't have rejected the NPC and should have pursued that romance. Session 11. Everything blew up. The in-real-life friend went to confront the NPC for stalking her for years. Confrontation turned into GM not having the NPC give up, while also making comments towards in-real-life friend about how if she hadn't made so many dumb decisions, she wouldn't be in this situation. In-real-life friend left the call, leaving just me, the GM, and one other player. The other player and I tried talking to the GM about how uncomfortable this whole situation is making us, let alone how uncomfortable my in-real-life friend must be feeling. GM essentially told us he didn't think he'd done anything wrong, that he didn't think anything about this was uncomfortable. It was my friend's character's fault for making dumb in-game decisions. I thought that if he didn't believe that it was uncomfortable when we told him, maybe he'd realize if my in-real-life friend told him herself. So I encouraged her to speak with him the next day after things had settled down and people weren't as heated. The next day they called. It lasted for a total of 2 minutes. My friend expressed her concerns to him, and his response didn't change. It wasn't his fault. He did nothing wrong. She shouldn't have been so dumb. My friend proceeded to hang up the call and leave the Discord. Seconds later, the GM had deleted the whole Discord server, Roll20 game, and messaged all of us saying that it was over, and then proceeded to block everyone so that we couldn't respond back to him. Well guys, I don't know about you, but even just reading the story made me feel awkward. This DM would probably be rather fond of the notorious Fatal RPG. But in any case, guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you have a story that you'd like me to narrate, let me know. And as always, thanks for watching, and have a good one.